Hello and welcome to our video for our add-on module for Watchdog. My name is Glenn Tompkins. I'm the Manager of Educational Services here at VectorVest. VectorVest has strived to provide you with the best information possible. How would you like to have your own personal alerting system? Well, that's what this fantastic tool is all about. You set up guidelines to find specific types of stocks that do specific things, and it lets you know when that happens by way of an alert. It will constantly look through the over 8,000 stocks that we track and pinpoint the ones that are doing what you want them to do. Folks, that's powerful investing. Let's get started. As you can see here, there's several different watchdogs that I'm currently tracking, but if you want to start your own, you would go up to this tab here and click on New. This is where it all begins. Right now there's two different watchdog types, MACD and support and resistance. Let's start with MACD. Down below, you will see the industry standards for the moving averages used for MACD, 12, 26, and 9. Down below that, you have search for stocks whose MACD is crossing the signal line, and you're going to determine which direction. If you're bullish, you want it to cross above the signal line, and if you're bearish, you want it to cross below. Let's say we're bullish. We want it to cross above. Down below, the alert sensitivity, and it's defaulted to a maximum of 1 alert per day per stock. I would suggest that you leave it on the default, because if not, your email box will be inundated with a lot of alerts. Simply, we'll go down to the bottom and click on Next. Here's our pricing and volume filters. It's defaulted to price greater than or equal to $5 and volume greater than or equal to 250,000 shares. I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to move this from $5 down to 1, and I'm going to change the volume from 250,000 down to 100,000. Now keep in mind, the looser you make your filters, the more alerts you will receive. Down below there, we have use a watch list filter. We're going to come back to that. So currently, we're looking at all of the stocks in our database which prices are greater than $1 and whose average volume is greater than 100,000 shares, where the MACD is crossing above the signal line. Let's go down to Next. We need to name it. We're going to call this Watchdog 1 MACD crossover. We'll click on Finish, and now the watchdog has been put into place. If we scroll down, we see here Watchdog 1 MACD crossover. You'll see the type, whether it's a MACD or support and resistance. The subscribe status here shows us that we are actively looking for stocks that meet the criteria in this watchdog. This is going to come into play a little bit more in the presentation. Wow, just like that, you can see an alert has come up to let us know that there's a stock that has met the criteria for this MACD crossover, which was PAL. And it gives you a trigger price of where it hit, as you see right here. That trigger price says that the MACD crossed at that price. And look at that. Another one has just popped up, ID. So we're going to let this watch list, it's going to create a watch list, as you see right here. This watchdog is a watch list. It's going to create this watch list and find you the stocks that fit the criteria that you set up automatically. All right, while that's going along, let's create a new watchdog. We'll go back up to New. And this time we're going to use support and resistance. And it gives you the criteria for the support and resistance that we're using. We have a look back period of 300 bars. The size of the support resistance zone is thin. We're using true for the high or low prices. The size of the reversals are going to be strong. And you can change the number of touches as you see here. We're going to leave it at 2. You can also look at just unbroken lines as well. Now, for support and resistance, let's say we want price. And there's several things you can do. Price could be nearing, retracing, or breaking. Let's click on breaking, and we can have resistance or of course support. Let's have resistance, and we can set it up for how much of a percentage we want to see price breaking through resistance. Right now it's set up to 1%. I'm going to move it down to 0.5%, and we still have our alert sensitivity. Let's go down to Next. Now on our first watchdog, we were looking at all of the stocks in the universe of stocks that VectorVest has. This time we're going to leave the filters alone. We're going to put it at $5 for the price filter and 250,000 shares for the volume. And as you can see, these keep popping up as they happen real time. This time, folks, we're going to use a watch list filter. I'm going to click that box. You can actually now put these criteria on a pre-made watch list that we have. Let's say you wanted to use the S&P 500. We would go to the S&P watch lists and go down to the S&P 500. Now everything is set up the same way it was in the first test, but now we are making our universe of stocks smaller by putting them on a watch list. Let's click on Next. And we're going to call this Watchdog 2 Support and Resistance, or S&R. We'll click on Finish. And there we are. We have Watchdog 2 Support and Resistance. Here's the type. We are subscribed to it. 2 touches. We want it to break resistance by 0.5%. And here's our filters. Folks, you have everything set up here for you to let you know what you want to do. Let's create one more Watchdog. I've shown you 2 ways to use Watchdog, but let's say you wanted to use a Watchdog criteria on a strategy that you like. Well, you can do that as well. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Unisearch. Let's say you like a strategy, a really good strategy like Chappell's Champs, and you want to put a Watchdog on it. Well, let's scroll down and go down to Strategies, Prudent, and find Chappell's Champs. We can run the search as of right now. And I want to look at the top 50 stocks in the strategy. Here they are. I can highlight the top stock, scroll down, and find the last stock and hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and left click. I've now tagged all of the stocks that the search found. I can right click on this whole list and click on Add to Watch List. Now here's the stocks that I've highlighted, and I want to add them to a watch list called Chappell's Champs. You'll notice in the watch list section I have a group called 00 Watchdog. In here there's no watch lists yet, but I'm going to create a new watch list. I'm going to click on New Watch List, and I'm going to name this Chappell's. I'm going to click on Add. Now I have the watch list under 00 Watchdog, and I want to add these stocks to that watch list. I'll click on OK, and now my watch list has been built. Now I'm going to set up a Watchdog on that list that I built. Let's go back to Watchdog. And let's say we click on New, and we want to create another MACD crossover, but on that watch list. So we'll click on MACD. Crossing above the signal line. Let's go to Next. Price filter, we're going to leave it at 5 and 250,000. Use the watch list filter. And let's go to 00 Watchdog. And there's Chappell's. Let's click on Next. And let's call this Watchdog 3 Chappell's. And click on Finish. And there's our third Watchdog. So now we did one Watchdog on the whole over 8,000 stocks that we track. We did a Watchdog on the support and resistance on the S&P 500. And the Watchdog 3 was on the watch list that we created from a search that we liked. Now from this standpoint, we can now go and track these going forward by building portfolios. Let's go to the first one. Well, the first one has been popping. We have 11 alerts in that list. As you can see right here, if I scroll down, here's all 11 stocks. So what I'm going to do is highlight the top stock, scroll all the way down to the last stock, hold the Shift key. I've got them all tagged. I'm going to right click, and I'm now going to build a quick folio so I can test these going forward. We're going to call this Watchdog 1 MACD crossover. We're going to leave our initial investment at $100,000. We're not going to use margin. We're not going to use interest. And because we are long in this, we'll click the purchase type for long and click on OK. Now that we've got all the stocks that we want into that portfolio, we can now stop the alerts by right-clicking on the Watchdog and click on Unsubscribe. And we're going to click Yes. What that does is that's going to stop all the alerts for coming in on that Watchdog. Let's go to the second one, Watchdog 2, Support and Resistance. We've got one stock here. Well, let's create a quick portfolio so that we can track that going forward as well. We'll right-click on it. We'll go to Quick Folio. And we're going to call this Watchdog 2, Support/Resistance. long, and click on OK. And let's check the third one, Watchdog 3 Chapels. There's no stocks here yet. So as the stocks come in, you can set up your portfolios to track them as well. Let's go to the portfolios. And here's our Watchdog 1 MACD crossover and Watchdog 2 support and resistance. Let's take a look. Here's our stocks. It's going to track it going forward. Watchdog 2 support and resistance. It's going to track it going forward as well. Folks, this is such an easy way to have the VectorVest program do the work for you. All you have to do is set it up and let the program provide you with the stocks that you're going to need to track going forward. Now, there's other things you can do here. As you see, there's a lot of different watchdogs, and they're all intermingling with each other. Well, we can separate them so that we can have a better accounting of what they're doing. We can group these by different things. One, by the type. So now I'm looking at all of the MACD watchdogs and all of the support and resistance watchdogs. We can also do it by status, whether it's subscribed or unsubscribed. The criteria, which we've set up for crossing above or below. You can do this for both bullish and bearish markets, by your filters and by your alert sensitivity. I'm going to leave it on type so that I can see all of my MACD watchdogs and all of my support and resistance watchdogs. Folks, again, it's made very simple for you to find the stocks that meet specific criteria at specific times. And now you don't have to spend the time to look through all of the stocks that we track to find stocks that are hitting specific criteria. We're like the Dow scrubbing bubbles. We do the work so you don't have to. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Have a great day.